Yeah. So let's get started with the backstory, I guess. So I've been posting a lot about the cake industry on Instagram,
Hmm.
and the general feeling in the comments is it's hard, people are exhausted. So your comment came in on a post about content creation in
Yeah.
particular. And I got really drawn to, the fact that it was a positive comment. You found your rhythm, you found your groove, you're in a good place with your business.
Hmm.
So could you tell me what that looks like at the moment, your business? Like what it is that you do in terms of what do you sell? Like front facing for a customer, what does your business look like?
I still take orders. So custom at the moment. I actually just recently closed off express orders. So they were preset designs that were on my website that had a lead time of 3 days. And honestly, I'm not really as interested doing them anymore. I would rather focus my effort and intention into custom work so customers can still book that. And I only book or quote within 6 months. So I've got that, like, I don't book too, even for weddings, I'm not booking myself out to the point where if my business changes again and
Yeah.
I've got this order. So for customers or that normal person that comes across my business, I'm a cake business. And then say like a brand or someone that was interested in me making content for them that isn't listed on my website. But if they came across my Instagram, they could see kind of what I'm producing content wise and then ask if, but I don't have a big sign that says open for collaborations, if that makes
Yeah.
sense.
Yeah.
I've got strong working relationships with like Colour Mill, like the whole of Temper Group. So Cakers, Colour Mill, and Loyal. And that keeps me very busy. And I've just recently taken on Prop Options, the UK
Yeah.
brand, and I'll be making content for them monthly. But I've worked with them previously, so they know that I do content already. And they've asked if I can like slide that into my schedule. So for customers, average customer, I can make cakes for them. But I'm also open to doing content as well for brands too. Yeah, honestly, only if I use the brand, like the brand, and it's not conflicting with any of my affiliations that I have. That's really important too.
Yeah. Okay, so I understood what that looks like, but for those who are watching, so
Mm-hmm.
basically from a front-facing point, if someone came across your website, they're looking to order a cake, and at this point, it's a fully custom designed cake for their wedding. Do you discriminate celebrations, or yeah, I need a cake for a special occasion? Can you design me one? And that's
Yes.
through your website. Yep.
Yes. I have an inquiry form and it's just your standard, well, not standard, but how many servings when. I don't really particularly ask for what type of event because I don't have a wedding surcharge or anything. I guess that comes in when like you get a bigger cake. Generally the bigger cakes are for the wedding. So that kind of gets factored in. But no discrimination against celebration. They can celebrate however they like. But I have recently like put my prices up and things like that to kind of not wean out, but kind of wean out those smaller orders that aren't viable for me as well.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah. I think, it's because you got to be mindful with your time as well, because
Mm-hmm.
from the business perspective, your business is actually, there are two categories, right? So there's the cake making and then there's content creation. So for those who don't really know much about content creation as a business, correct me if I'm wrong in terms of what you're doing, but basically, when it comes to content creation, you can, as a brand, create content and earn through brand deals, right? Or you can create content and earn through the piece of content being a product that the brand can then take and use on their channels, right? So, are you doing both?
So I also forgot I'm a teacher as well. So my business is three faceted. So the teaching is kind of where the content creation started, if that makes sense. If that,
Yeah.
like, I was creating content to teach. Yes, and I also sell an online tutorial at the moment still on my website.
Yeah.
I'll be looking to do more like that. So with content creation for me, I still get a little bit icky with that term, as in like I use it because it's the term that it is, right? So how it is for me at the moment is the brands that I work with, I charge them a fee for the reel. So it's not commission or anything like that regarding the product that I'm using, if that makes sense. So I get sent briefs and I have Zoom chats with the creative director for Temper, and we kind of talk about the new products that are coming out, and we make a plan, or she mostly makes a plan with what they're wanting to push that month or what new things they've seen on social media in that month. And then I'll get the products, create the reel, and charge them a flat rate for that.
So it's essentially like making a cake, but you're making a piece of content. So you get a brief,
Yes.
you deliver the product, you get paid for the product, right?
Yes.
Correct? And then with the teaching, you've got an online tutorials, but I also know that you do in-person at like expos and stuff. Do you do classes in person?
Yeah, so I did start. That's how I started. I held workshops in Fitzroy 2 years ago, but as you know, they're not very viable when you're the one hosting it, preparing everything, So I did start. That's how I started. And then when I started working with Temper, they took me along to all of the expos. So I started doing stages and store demos. Then I started getting flown interstate to work in cake studios that were hosting my classes. And that worked out way better for me because I could just turn up.
You just come and teach.
Yeah. And I've kind of stopped the in-person ones at the moment just because I don't want to hold them myself. They take up, I have to bake the cakes, all that kind of thing. I was doing them with Miss Biscuit in Camberwell, but she's just closed. But that worked really well in Melbourne because, I could just go there. So in-person are on hold at the moment, and that's why I'm kind of starting to invest in my own online ones, once-off purchasable content rather than subscription-based, because I'm actually a part of a subscription-based service at the moment with eCats Academy, and I've found that my followers didn't really want to pay for a subscription, and that's fine. So I'm going to start investing in once-off purchasable content and then still doing those like stall and stage demos as well. Yeah.
Yep. Okay. So it sounds like a lot for one person. Is it one person? That's you? Do you have help in your business?
No, it's just me. But this is, I've found a good balance. I don't overwhelm myself too much, but I have to be like completely honest though. And I don't particularly I'm always going to be honest, but I haven't actually said this out loud, if that makes sense. I don't pay for rent. I have no bills. Yeah. Which when I tell people that that is a huge relief. So my husband pays for everything, and I don't not tell people that because have any type of feeling about it. I just don't tell everyone, hey, I don't pay rent. It doesn't. So when you take away the fact that I'm not struggling because I have nothing to pay for, I can then focus on what I actually want to do rather than what I have to do.
Yeah.
I'm not going to post that on my Instagram stories hey, I don't pay for anything,
Yeah, but I think that's a really important point because it doesn't matter what your business looks like, but success is how it fits your life. And that is something that I really want people to see, is that there is no, you see big corporations and obviously there are blueprints and frameworks and stuff for you to actually have a big successful company, right? But when we're talking about small businesses, I think the most important thing is how does that fit you and your life and your setup, but most importantly, how does it help you get to where you want to be?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So I worked in kitchens for 6 years. So even though Jake's always paid for things, we've been together for 14 years, so 16 and 17 years old. So I've never paid rent really, even though I could have just stayed at home and been unemployed. I've never done that. still want to work. So I worked in kitchens for like 6 or 7 years, and I worked in hell. Like I loved the work, just not working for other people. I was undiagnosed at the time. I'm autistic and I was undiagnosed, so I was really struggling with that. And I'd come home and cry. And it was Jake that was like, you're not happy and you want to do like cakes. You know, that wasn't what I thought I was going to be doing when I first did my qualification. He's like, you're doing them. He's like, let's just get the house registered and just try it. And if it doesn't work, you can just go back to work. Like, he's like, but you're unhappy. So for me, success was always tied to just being happy. Like not thinking about running my car off the side of the road every time I got up and went to work.
Yeah.
And from being diagnosed just before my own business so I've had my business for like, this is the 4th year, and I've been diagnosed for 4 years. So those were hand in hand. So I could set up my own business at home knowing that I was autistic and knowing what I would struggle with. So I made my business viable so I wouldn't burn out. I still do every now and then, like after Festival of Cake. That really was because the social aspect of it is very demanding. But it meant that I could like take things on that I knew how I could deal with them. And I knew if I had a crazy week with orders, I wouldn't be able to make content because I can't juggle it. So even though it's just me, I've gone into the business knowing how, and I still mess up with it, but trying to structure it in a way that I'm able to like deal with it mentally. Yeah. But again, I don't have the pressure of, I have no responsibility. I don't have kids. I don't have car loan. You know, I basically pay for a phone bill and that's it. And obviously my own registrations and things like that. But I have no stress. Like if I wanted to sleep for a week and not take a cake order, I could do that. But I don't.
That sounds like the dream though. Like, you know, like...
But I suppose I don't tell people that because I don't want it to come off privileged as well. Like, oh, I don't have to work. Like you know what I'm trying to say, right? Like
I do. But this is exactly why I want to have these conversations, because I want people to realize that this is possible. And this is nothing to be ashamed of, you know. Yeah. Like I think me included, people have this idea that you got to work hard for success, or you got to, you know. So this is exactly why I want to have these conversations. You know, like this is possible and you should own it once you get there. And that's another thing too, is that when people get to a point where it is actually successful, they start reducing it. They start to reduce themselves. They start to feel like, oh, this feels a little bit too easy, too good. Then it will start to spiral because like own it. Like when I say it feels like the dream, it's not condescending. It's actually like that's what everyone wants. Well, starting a business.
Even though obviously, you know, I don't have bills, I work and I worked really hard. I made sure that I went like through, you know, I did my full-time patisserie qualification, so I'm fully qualified. As I said, I went through hell in my kitchens with head chefs and sous chefs and all that kind of stuff. And I work really like I work hard, even though I not have to, but you know, when I was working for other people, I was like, maybe I do want kids like really soon. And I realized that was because I just wanted like a break from work. I didn't want kids. Does that make sense? And then
no, it makes total sense.
Because I was like, oh, I have kind of really nothing else going for me. Like I'm just kind of working this shitty patisserie job and I'm bored and I hate it here. Maybe we should have kids, haha. And then as soon as I started working my own business, you know, Temper put me on a plane, sent me to Birmingham and Miami to those conventions. I'd never been on a stage before and they trusted me. They were like, do you want to go? You know, I was getting sent and I still get sent to all these places that I don't know when and if I even want kids. Do you know what I mean? I have so many other things. I realized that I was just kind of looking for other things to fill the space and time.
Yep.
And now I'm so like happy and I'm so excited and I want to do all of these like really cool things with these brands. Like I just last night shot a campaign for KitchenAid and Colour Mill, which is like crazy to me. And I get to do all these things that I feel like I don't have enough time in a day to be able to do all these things. If that makes, like, I'm so excited, like, oh my God, I get to do this. And I get to, you know, do all of these fun things, and I'm really happy, but I'm also kicking these like goals I didn't think were attainable for me when I was studying patisserie. Especially because most people in qualifications, or when you study, they drop out of the industry, or they stay in those like jobs that just kind of pay. And then I'm the only one of my friend group that are pastry chefs that do what I do.
Yeah.
So it's like I'm very like content, but I always want more in a way as well.
Yeah, I get it. I think, you know, and this is why I love talking to people in positions like you, because I think that ultimately that's where everyone wants to be, is that you set up a life and you set up a business that helps you find who you are, you know, that helps you do the things that you find fulfilling, even though it's so different to what other people are doing, right? And that's why I love it. Hearing that you're doing things, you know, what I'm this season of my life, what I'm going through is trying to do exactly what you said you've done, in that there's a lot of me trying to put myself in the center and going, okay, who am I? What do I want to do? You know, does this work for me? Does this not work for me? Because, you know, I have a kid, and in the years that I've had kids, or one kid, that kind of take a back seat. You know what I mean? And I'm not saying to people, have kids, don't have kids. It just do whatever works for you at the time. Like right now, you're doing so many things that are exciting for you, and kids don't feel right at the moment, but that might change. It might not, but I feel like it's the most important to, and I'm talking to the people that are watching this later on, it's the most important to remember you at whatever point you're at. Yeah, so I love what you're doing, but you do mention that you struggle with particular things, and so you set up your business in a way that helps you navigate the things that you know you tend to struggle with. So I'd love to know what they are. Like, what do you normally struggle with in terms of work?
Yeah, so I guess I struggle with prioritizing, and I struggle with doing the things that I don't want to do, say like admin, for instance. I struggle with. I struggle with, it's funny because even though I love routine, I haven't been tested for ADHD yet, but I also love spontaneity as well. So they conflict, and a lot of the times that's like really hard in a business, right? So I struggle if admin, well, I used to, I'm better at it now. I struggle with a lot of social interaction. So if I have an expo that runs, you know, like Festival of Cake, for instance, I had 27 blocks. So I didn't have a break, if that makes sense. So I was in
27 blocks of what?
Like, what was it? Was it 20? I can't remember. Where did I get 27? I can't remember. But basically, it was like 3 days of stage, stall, and classes. So they had me, the Cake Decorating Network had me in classes, and Colour Mill and that had me on, like, I said yes to it because I could do it, but I had an hour break every day and that was it. But I crashed very hard, obviously. And then we had
I'm crashing just
and then you had the awards night on the Saturday night, and I won an award that night. So that was also like a high, like an adrenaline. And then the Sunday, and then I came home and cried for a week. I know that when I go to Birmingham or overseas for work, even interstate, I know not to book the days, generally the week after with anything. Because I'll sleep. And so it's not like struggling doing these things at the time. It's struggling with
the crash.
Yes, it's the crash. And I also, I struggle with, so I get like anxiety about like long deliveries, if that makes sense, like driving out to wineries. And I've just recently put a stop to like deliveries further than X amount, because it's just really small, like minuscule kind of things. Like I struggle with like budgeting and money, but Jake's great at that. So, but I've recently downloaded a self-care app and I've been using it for like a month, and it breaks down really big tasks into small things and you get like points, and that has improved everything significantly. I found that like allowing only 5 minutes for admin, I'm fine with, rather than letting it get like banked up.
Yeah.
So I struggle with, it's kind of a whole like spectrum of things, but really it's just a lot of social interaction I really struggle with, but temper are really good, and they know this, so they check with me with everything.
Yeah.
Like, they know that I can push through, but then they make sure that I'm okay, and that's what's really good. I have like an extremely supportive husband who I've been with for 14 years, so he's known me from like teenage to now I'm 31. And temper are very like extremely supportive as well. They don't ask any more of me than I'm willing to say yes to. So the struggles are more like things that I can just kind of, just like I'm struggling now for it, like as in right now trying to explain what I'm trying to say. But it's just admin, but and like admin and social things and things like that, if that makes sense.
Yeah. I think they're very common struggles. Like, you know, a lot of the things that you say you struggle with, I struggle with as well, like severely. I hate admin, you know, I hate things that are mundane and boring. So I think a lot of people would relate to the struggles that you just said. But I find it extremely inspiring that it seems like you really know yourself. Like you're very like, I know that I'm ABCD, and then I'm going to put in, you know, certain boundaries and certain frameworks to help me so that I don't, you know, overextend. I don't blah, blah, blah. And a lot of, you know, I used to not do this as well, because especially when you run things by yourself, right? You think that that's what you're supposed to do because everyone else seems to be doing that, and people override themselves. And then they kill themselves in the process, you know, not literally, but, you know, exhaustion, burnout, because they don't listen to what they need and then put in certain boundaries. So I think you're really good at that. And I think that is something that is really inspiring, even though you might not feel like, you know, you're doing well in that regards, but I think you're doing really well.
I think it comes from, so Jake is a tattooer and he's worked for himself his whole life. So I'm married to a creative who works on their own, who has never had anyone else dictating what they should do either. So he has that like, no, I don't want to do it. Like he's worked to where he is now to be able to say, I don't want to do this. I do want to do this. So he understands the whole working for yourself thing. Like I learn off him. And I've worked in jobs where they romanticize overworking, and would always see them like, oh, I had like 1 hour sleep, 2 hours sleep. You know, I was in the kitchen till, you know, 2 a.m. And there was one person that I worked for where they made me, you know, I come in, there was one shift, there was a series of shifts that were like this, but one, you know, I'd start at 7, finish at 6 p.m. And then I went to gym, came back, and I had to go back to work after gym to work till 1. A small business, but that was just, I was like, this isn't like anything to be proud of.
No, like, it's not natural either.
I don't find that like exciting to be like, wow, I've had no sleep and I'm so tired, like as in from overworking yourself and and as in like, you know, oh, we took, you know, 250 orders this week. Look how good we're doing, but you know, they haven't slept, they're not eating, they haven't seen their friends, like they have no social life. It's like, well, all that money for what cost? You just get like having a nervous breakdown when you're 35, and then no one's gonna like. It's just like never been impressive to me. And I also love sleeping, so I work naps into my daily routine. So
don't have kids because you'll have to forego your love of sleep.
I know. Well, actually, I have to go through, this is actually important, I have to go through IVF, and that changes things drastically because I can't accidentally be in the position, right? We have to sit down, notebook it in. And that is something that's very like, we're so happy, you know, he travels the world tattooing. I get to travel doing what I do, and then we meet in the middle and we're happy. And and yeah, I've it's taken I'm 30, I turned 32 this year. It's taken a really long time to have those boundaries and understand what's good and what isn't. And I only understand myself because of my diagnosis, and just changing little things that isn't just anxiety, because everyone gets anxiety, like, oh, I don't want to do this, but maybe let's try a different way where I do deliveries, but I put a cap on it. I look at Google Maps, I binocular and see if it's in the middle of nowhere. Am I comfortable if it's raining? You know, because at the end of the day, if I get into like lost in the middle of nowhere, cake topples over, the customer's not going to care about me or anxiety. I took their money.
Yeah.
And I have their wedding cake.
Yeah.
So
the frameworks falls on the business. Yeah.
100%.
I think they're good business practice to have anyway, regardless of, you know, whether you're neurodivergent or not.
No, exactly.
But like the 6-month lead time, like when I used to take orders, that was my rule as well. I won't take an order any longer than 6 months, because for me, I find that people tend to change their minds. So the work is quite like wasted. Like you could work on a design and then, you know, closer to the date, they want to change the whole thing. And it's just a waste of time. So I think things like that, you know, delivery just within a certain radius of what you're comfortable doing, things like that are good business practice anyway.
I mean, I've worked for businesses that don't do delivery full stop, and they still, do you know what I mean? Like, you know, I'm not trying to put like fences up, like if someone really wants my work, but I found that if someone really wants my work and I'm not available to deliver that day, they'll generally find a way to get the cake, or I'll have the cake ready a day earlier and I'll make sure it's ready.
But these are your boundaries. Yes,
exactly. So it's not like I'm trying to cut people out or anything. I just found that I have to, actually, the other thing I struggle with is tone as well. I know this just from testing and everything. So I struggle with tone and social cues and things like that, facial expressions and everything. So that's a struggle too, because I don't do phone call or in-person consultations. So I've had to like find ways to make sure that I'm communicating professionally, nicely, things like that, because I can come across really blunt and really like in person I can come across like certain ways as well, or I can understand things one way and not the other. So I have like Jake, my translator, who will read something, an inquiry, a weird message that I got, go, oh no, they mean it like this, you're reading it like this. And I struggle with that kind of thing every day. So that obviously going from like every day to customers, I have to be pleasant, I have to be like professional, and I have to make sure that you know, it's like you have to have specific language when you're talking to people, unless you're friends with them. And then I struggle with that too, because sometimes I'll say things or take things a certain way, and Jake's like, no, they didn't mean it literally, they meant it like this. And then that's something. But he's the best. He always is like there for me to just be like, no, you're not thinking about it as like, try and think about it this way and try and do that this way, and then we can do that together, if that makes sense.
That's amazing.
So I'm really lucky.
So I'm curious, right? Because you've got, for your business, you've got the custom cakes, you teach, you do a lot of different things. And is that by design to keep your brain interested? Is there something that you would like to stop doing? Are there more things you want to add onto the roster?
Yeah, so when I took down the express cakes, I've been in the like kind of thinking, brainstorming part of potentially shutting off, not taking any orders under a certain amount of money, right?
Yeah.
So let's just say minimum order $300, because by the time you take tax from it and like all that kind of stuff, it's not like worth it. It's not worth it. Like $100 cake becomes like a $80 cake, and then, you know, all that kind of stuff. To then like only have the big wedding cakes, to then fully prioritize the content and things like that, because Temper Group always have work for me. I'm very lucky in that respect that they are basically like waiting for me to Like when I say to them, oh, I don't have many orders this week, you can send me more. They're like, it's already in your inbox. You know what I mean? Because that's consistent work. Orders are not consistent, obviously. But then if I say no to those small orders, I'm also decreasing the amount of content that I can make for my own business.
Yeah.
Because when I do this content creation, it's for other businesses. It's not for me. So then if I'm focusing on other businesses' content, mine loses out. So I have to find a balance of still be creating for my online portfolio. And that's a little bit of a struggle because I'd rather prioritize the paid work. But I can't. And Jake's like, if you say no to these little orders that you're doing, you're losing out on that little filming, that little part that you can film and upload and things like that. So that's like a struggle, obviously. But yeah, I'd like to do more like online teaching and probably not as much in person in Melbourne. I'd prefer to do like interstate or overseas where I don't have to organize it, basically, which sounds silly. But
So would you ever consider getting someone on board to help you because, that's a lot of things to juggle. And there are things that perhaps someone can take off your plate.
No, because I don't even have money for me, let alone like an employee. As in like, I'm not making enough to like, and when I say admin to struggle, I mean like 10 emails. I don't mean like 200. Like, I mean like 10, okay? Yeah, offered. Like I have people message me and say like, oh, I can do admin. It's like, no, you're severely overestimating the work. Someone else. Also, I love doing everything that I do. Yeah. I love like, Monday's a baking day, Tuesday's a baking day, and then I do little bits of content in between. And then, do you know what I mean? I've organized everything. Like I don't even have Jake help me. As in, I see a lot of bakers online will like basically employ their husbands to like make boxes or like do like things. I don't ask him to do any of that stuff. He would, but like, I just don't. I just do it myself. But I honestly wouldn't be able to pay anyone. And I don't think I'd be able to trust anyone with.
Yeah, that too. But I think it's because you enjoy every process. Everything in the process feeds into you. Yeah. And what you want to do. So walk me through what a week looks like for you right now.
So Monday, I will generally get my groceries and things like that because I am just a small business and I don't have a huge volume of orders. I go and get like my groceries weekly. I don't have yet. So I'll do that and then I'll bake. And then Tuesday, I'll bake any extra that didn't fit in the Monday. And then in between that, I'll do any smaller content. So say for Colour Mill or anything, little reels, I'll do them in between. And then Wednesday, kind of the same situation where like I'll fit in content. Wednesdays are pretty chill. I don't do too much. And then Thursday, if I have those Friday, Saturday orders, I'll try and, stack and do everything like that. But I'm really quick. So decorating a 3-tier vintage cake takes an hour. 45 minutes, an hour. So I don't necessarily do like fill stack mask days. I can do that all in one day. Yeah. So I just choose the day that fits the orders. Obviously, if I have an order on a Friday, I'll just do all of the orders for the weekend on the Thursday.
Yeah. Yeah. So and then dynamic. It depends on
exactly
the work. Yeah.
Because I don't have a commercial fridge either. I just have a second domestic fridge.
Yeah.
Because the commercial ones are just energy suckers. So my week is very like chill, but I'll try to just like bake at the start, plot along in the middle, do like the bits and pieces of content, but I also stay up really late at night. So I don't have like a good sleeping routine. So I could be like filming a reel till like, I don't know, 1 a.m. sometimes. Sometimes I'll send the drop boxes through at like 2 a.m., So my weeks aren't very stressful unless I'm really got a lot on. Like the campaign that I shot yesterday, it had to be done by yesterday. So I just made sure I baked everything in the morning and did the campaign later on. But that comes from like working in kitchens for so long. You learn a workflow and you learn how to prioritize things, and that's second nature to me. I know when I should be doing things, what's going to work efficiently, because I'm all about efficiency. I don't like double handling. I don't like triple handling. And I would rather do everything super quickly so I can sleep and eat and not worry about it. So my weeks are very like loose.
Depends on what you have on. But again, I think it ties back to, you know, what works for you, right?
Yeah.
I'm interested to hear about your content creation in terms of like, I know a lot of cake makers struggle with, you know, making content for their own business. Right? And I know you're making content for Temper Group, also for your own business. But I'd love to hear more about that in terms of like, how did you start getting into content and what does your setup look like?
Yeah, so during COVID, I was still working full time, and what would happen is I would just be super bored after work. So during COVID, I taught myself food photography. So I would make like a random dish every day, or like, you know, every few days. And I would make my own backdrops with MDF board and Bunnings paint samples. And I would just consume and consume and consume videos, books on food photography. So I taught myself. I already had the Canon 80D, my professional camera, from when I used to be a makeup artist. I used to do YouTube videos. So I already had this good camera, but I didn't know how to use it for food. So I taught myself how to do that. I taught myself the lighting. I taught myself, it was a lot of trial and error, obviously. And then I just kind of forgot about it, put everything away and was like, okay. Then I started my own business a few years later and upgraded the lights. So, you know, spent a bit of money on them. So I run 2 continuous lights, 2 continuous Godox lights. I have my Canon 80D, which I've had for about 12 years now. And I have a flash strobe, which I actually don't really understand anything about photography or videography. I've learned exactly what I need and how to, but if everything was to factory reset tomorrow, I would have no idea how to fix it. I'd be stuck with no cameras. And I taught myself how to like edit. Can't do Photoshop though, that's really hard. And then what happened is when I got my own had my own business, I was like, oh, I want pink branding. Like I thought, oh, I want like when my people get on my page, I want the backdrops to be pink. So I painted my own backdrop, set up what works for me because my house is quite dark. My old house was big, the natural lighting. Started shooting, and then obviously having the same background means that your work is unified. So I think that's how it's
recognizable. Yeah.
And then as the times kind of got on, I just recently got a second camera, but Temper approached me I think they approached me so I started my business in September, and by April they were in my DMs asking if I wanted to be an affiliate. And then they were resharing my work. My work was getting like used as backdrops on cake shows, like they were printing out in the big things. And then they just kind of said like, did you want to create content for us? Like if you could use every color in the oil collection box, and we'll call it the model series. You know, like it just kind of very naturally progressed, as in I had to ask them, oh, so what do I charge? Like, how do I, because I didn't know. I was like, I don't know. And I didn't want to undercut them or overcut them. And they've been a very big help Shane's basically helped me with, you know, pricing myself and like, so it really did start from Temper. They helped me how much I should be charging. They helped me with invoices. They helped me with everything like that.
For the content creation side. Yeah.
Yes, for the content creation, where everything that I produce, this is the other thing, falls extremely in line with them and vice versa. So the most common question I get is, how do I get to work with Colour Mill on that? Like I get it all the time. And, you know, I'll look at their work and I'll see that it isn't in line with what they would post. Does that make sense? Like just
So, but did that align like organically because you've already got that aesthetics and it aligns with them. You didn't make that aesthetics in order to align with them.
No, they were putting my work on their website and on their backdrops not even without asking me. Like, I would give them the work, and then like they were like, oh, like, we're using it as a back. Do you know what I mean? I didn't. That was customer work that I took a photo of. Does that make sense? Like, that was already I had in my feed, and they were printing pamphlets with them or being like, oh, we love this, we're going to reshare this.
Did they pay you for that?
Well, no, but
shame.
Like, do you know what I mean? The whole thing is like really collaborative, and same as Prop Options, for instance, when they asked me to create content, their content on their page is very like clean cut, beautiful. Like, you know, the UK cake scene is different to Australia, you know, that sugar paste and fondant heavy. So when they asked me for content, I was like, I love them and I've done demos for them in the UK, but I said, like, did you want the content exactly like how I film it? Like, or did you want me to change, you know, certain backdrops or things like that? And they were like, no, we want exactly what you do. So them as well. And also I have a stencil with Lissy Lou, another UK brand. They wanted the content for that stencil that I made, that I did in collaboration with them. They wanted the content exactly how I shoot it. So all three brands that I've worked with haven't asked for changes, haven't asked for like, I'll give them preferences. Do you want like this way, or like, do you want it like my hands, or do you want colored backdrops? And 9.99999 times out of 10, they'll be like, whatever you want. Like, that other 0.001 is if there is a preference for, oh, let's add some florals in the backdrop, you know? Yeah.
So do you think working with these brands, because they're, you know, known brands within the cake industry, Options and, you know, Temp Group being Loyal, Pecker's Warehouse, Colour Mill, and then there's Lissy Lou with their own line of supplies and all of that. So they're quite known brands. Do you think that they're paying you enough?
So I haven't, see, this is why it's really hard, right? Because I don't like, is there a award rate for these things? I don't know. Like, you know how you can Google the award rate for every other industry, you know? I've stuck to the same rate, the same agreement with Temper for 3 years, because it all comes out in the wash with them, as in like they send me overseas and I don't pay for a coffee when I'm with them. Do you know what I mean? So even though my rates haven't gone up for reels or whatever with them, they make sure I'm fully taken care of. Do you know what I mean? Like, it all kind of comes, and I also love them as well, which for me, it's like a personal transaction too, because I genuinely love that whole team. So for me, it's like, and you know, if I need anything, I still put orders through on the website, and then I'll get a message from Shane or Emma, like, why did you pay for that? Do you know what I mean? Because I'll still pay for supplies. Like, I'm not going to ask, hey, can you send me like some more coloring? You know, I'll still pay for it. And then they'll be like, why didn't you tell us? You know?
I think when it comes to content creation, because I've worked with a lot of brands as well.
Yeah.
I think that relationships are very important, but I'm a big advocate for, you know, charging your worth. And I don't want to call out the brands on an interview, but if you're interested in me potentially helping you in terms of reviewing your rates, whatever, I'm happy to, because, you know, there is a lot of, like, if you're working with 3 brands and you're telling me that you're not making enough money to potentially get help, whether you want to or not, I'm just saying from a business perspective, there is something to be looked at.
Oh yeah, I could totally be like, oh yeah, these are my rates. Like, I've gotten paid $4,000 for a reel from a telco like brand. Do you know what I mean? Like, I know, but I'm like, it's not even like it'd be interesting to see what the, you know, what, not what you would have to say, but what conversation would be. But I'm like, so I think that comes from like, you know, not struggling to pay rent or whatever, I'm so happy they say jump and I say like how high. Like with them, it's like a relationship with like Temper Group specifically that I just like, I'm so okay. And I know you're probably like honestly, like
Can you read my body language? But
yeah,
no,
yeah,
like
yeah.
I'm not here to, I'm not here to do that. Yeah.
Yeah. But any new brands or whatever, I would love to have a conversation. But with them specifically, they're just going to be kept
Yeah.
in my heart. And then other brands, for instance, definitely would be interested to talk to you about that kind of stuff because I don't have the same relationship with other brands as I have with them, So that would be actually interesting because, how do you even work that out? I don't even know how and my engagement's really high too. I checked that.
Yeah. So, no, I think you've got a lot of potential, especially in your content creation. I think you're selling yourself short.
Oh, as in like, thank you for work. Thank you.
No, yeah, because I don't know what the numbers are like. And I agree because Temper is your first, the brand that gave you that hand, right? And I like, for me, that brand's Kitchen Warehouse. That's how when I decided, I'll just do content because I'm already making content for my business. And so it's the same thing with me where whatever they want, I don't care, because it's a relationship that I have with them. They're the first brand. I love their product. So I get it with Temper and stuff. But like, one, you've got the skills. Two, you've got the audience. Like, you've got the platform. So there shouldn't be any reasons why you can't further monetize on that.
Yeah, definitely. I think with other brands for sure. Yeah, 100%. Yeah. But then like, say for someone who's watching who does get like a DM, where do they even, where do you even start with rates and stuff? Because there's nowhere that you can turn to like think, this is a general.
Yeah, it's really vast because it depends on the niche that you're in. So like, let's say, a skincare collaboration would cost very differently to say kitchenware, wellness tends to pay more in certain areas. Yeah. So like, I've done collaborations with KitchenAid before where it's gifted and then, there are certain other brands that are paid. So it's really hard to kind of know where you're at, but there are certain kind of goalposts to look at.
This is actually really funny. I don't know whether you saw a post that I just recently made. It was like last week. So I got a cold call email from one of those creator agencies and it was in my spam and it was from, the Content Click. I'll name it. I don't care. For Violet Crumble. And
I saw that.
So they've actually, I've had an email sitting in my inbox for 4 days now from the head of licensing and marketing from the company that owned Violet Crumble. They emailed obviously to be extremely apologetic and to try to tell me that they don't know where. Basically, that they're apologetic, it was a miscommunication, and that they value the content creators. And they also wanted to know if I was open for a chat to talk to them about content creation and collaboration, not from me, but in general. And it's been sitting there because I'm like, well, you probably definitely would have known that the agency that you were going with was gifting only. I'm also not a consultant, so I do have words I want to say to them, like, casting more than $9 tin of chocolate.
No, that just seems extremely weird to me, even from a gifted perspective.
It's not gifted, is it?
Trying to get content for a tin of chocolate. It's weird.
But that's what I'm saying. Like, that's and it's sitting there because I do want to talk to them, but I also don't owe anything to them either because 2026, you've got like a marketing team, you've got the internet, and you've got a plethora of agencies that you could go through. And how did we get to it? You know what I mean? So it's funny because, that's gifted, but it came with guidelines and had to have approval. So they wanted reviews, but they had to be approved. Yeah.
So this is a side thing, but when it comes to big brands and content agencies, it's really kind of convoluted because within this big brand, right, you've got many departments. So there would be, let's say, a department or one person that is the contact point to the agency,
Mhm.
right? So the agency itself, again, it's got many departments or many employees, right? So there might be a few people working on this account with, and then so this person would have to say to the agency, this is our budget, blah, blah. And then they hand off and they don't, that's it. That's their job done, right? So the agency would then go and find creators and then liaise with that, come back with the creator. Then the agency, the brand will go, okay, we like this one, we don't like that one. So it's like it's a really, yeah. So the agencies, I'm not excusing the brand, but because of that process, a lot of the time, if you have an agency that's not ethical, right? Like Violet Crumble might be paying them a budget, but that budget does not get passed on to the creators because that's the agency's choice. It's not necessarily the brand that dictates that. You know what I mean? So it's still on the brand because they're not vetting this agency, or, you know, they're or for whatever reason, but it's not a direct reflection on the brand all the time.
Well, that's what they were trying to say. Also I hadn't replied to it because I was like, I just want to kind of not, like, I want to remove emotion from it, because when I got it, I was like, oh my God, they've sent me an email. And yeah, I just kind of want to like
take the call and like,
yeah,
because they've reached out. So it's just hear them. You don't have to say anything, right?
Yeah.
Just hear what they have to say. But I think they're just doing damage control as well because you posted it publicly, right?
Either. It was only that I did send a reply to that original email a week earlier, sorry. I would never like do that for small business. I don't like cancel culture. Like, I would never do that. But yeah, and they're saying, so I've worked with another creator agency and that was the reel I got paid $4,000 for. So they're all very different.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Like it's literally, but like it's like anything, you know. You think like insurance companies, you know, anything. There is such a vast array of businesses and the way that they're run. So that I'm going to bring this back to cake businesses as well. Is that everyone runs it differently. So there's a certain perspective of what a certain business should look like. But in 2026 especially, like, anyone can start their own business. Anyone can register a company and call it legit because you do branding really well. But you don't really know what's behind those doors. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and I've tried to not compare myself to other businesses too, because it's very easy to compare myself to other cake businesses. And I even compared myself the other night to someone else who'd surpassed. Now, I don't really care about followers, but, you know, they'd surpassed in, like, their content was like going crazy and stuff. And I said to Jake, I'm not jealous, but I'm just like, oh, and then I was like, I just need to get better. That's just like, use that as like fuel to like try different things. And like, instead of getting like, you know, they might have this great thing on the outside, but they might be really struggling on the inside of their business, which is the whole point you're having these conversations.
Yeah.
So I was like, no, I'm not going to compare myself to someone that I don't know. I'm just going to use that as fuel to just put more work into myself. So
I think especially on social media, it's really easy to do that. But what you're comparing is basically, you know, vanity metrics. Like, unless you know that those engagements is making her tens of thousands of dollars, that's when I think you should be going, okay, I could be making that kind of money as well. So, you know what I mean? But like,
I'm laughing. Yes, I would love that.
Yeah. So you can definitely do that. What was I going to say? So what's next for you? Are you happy to kind of continue on the different projects that you've got next for you?
I love at the moment, I think what's next is definitely making an ecosystem of purchasable once-off tutorials online. Definitely. That's why I've invested in the second camera. I want to, like, I would love to strengthen my work with brands and things too, like continue to work with Temper and that, you know, overseas and things like that. And just kind of every day I just want to be happy. So I have a plan for like, oh, I would love to do this. Like every year I write little goals, you know, and I don't refer to them a lot, but by the end of the year, I get to tick them all off.
So what are some of them?
Well, like, one of the years was I wanted to, go back to get invited back to Cakers to do a workshop in Sydney, and like I did. And then one of them this year was to go on a podcast, and I did that for the first time. And that was like very organic or whatever. I have, what was the other one? Just to, be invited back to Cake International to, do the podcast. One of the goals is to be on top of admin. But
have you ticked that one off?
Actually going really good. I was saying to Jake last night that 5 to 10 minutes a day is really like helping me at the moment. I would love to have like a campaign with Colour Mill, like a proper like collaboration. That's something that I've never talked to them about, but I would love to bring out like a set of tips or colours or things like that. That would be so cool. I just have little things that if I don't hit them and they never happen, it's fine, but it's fun to like work and manifest something. Yeah. But I just want to be happy, and I want to stay booked for things. I want to stay relevant. I want to stay around. I don't want to dwindle off into, and that's what I was saying with the content. I hate that we have to invest all of this into content. I would rather not be on, but I have to evolve, So the goal is to just kind of stay evolving and stay adaptable and just kind of be there when people forget, hey, I'm here.
Yeah. Yeah. I think it's important. And I think this is where people get the pressure to post content from, because from a business perspective, you do need to stay top of mind, right? And what that means is even if someone doesn't have a need for your product, if you keep showing up in front of their face, when they do have that need, that they will think of you. And that's like an age-old marketing thing. But people, I think that's what sits at the roots of people's pressure to, I have to make content, even though they think that they have to make content to get followers, so to get new clients or whatever, right? Now I've kind of lost what I was trying to say. No, but so what I'm trying to say is, yes, you do have to stay top of mind. And for someone like you who can work content into your schedule, right, into your work, that's great. But if someone absolutely hates making content for their business, there are still other things that they can do before they have to pick up a camera and film themselves, and that is getting out into the real community. You can stay top of mind by just doing letter drops, the old things that don't kind of cross your mind anymore, they still work because there are still people living in the world, right? So going out and doing physical things to stay top of mind. Entering if you don't enjoy the competitions. Talk to me about competitions.
I've only ever done like one, as in like the physical cake competition, but that was my introduction to working with the Cake Decorating Network. Like that, because I did this like monochromatic buttercream thing, cake bacon sweets, like the first year I was on. So like 3 or 4 years ago, I saw it and I was like, why not? And through delivering my cake there, meeting the people that were running the competition, and then I ended up placing second, which was pretty cool for like my first competition. But then when I came back for the ceremony on the Sunday, I got to meet Liz, who was the owner of ACDN, and that was a natural thing of like, here I am, this is my work. She was interested in my work relationship, because it was me just kind of being there and being like, hi, I'm Alex. And then even through coming second, I then looked into who came first and I discovered their work, So, even though I didn't get to meet them, I was there. And then that started that day, Liz said, we would love for you to do a thing vintage cakes for ACDN. And that's how my relationship started with them, because they physically saw my work in the real world. And you don't need a business to run, to enter a competition. And even though the last cake expo, not festival of cake, like the other cake baking sweets, I will still go there. Even though I don't need to buy anything, I will still be there to like see people, meet people, like meet business owners that I've been buying their stuff, introduce myself. Hey, I'm Alex. I buy this from you. I really like this product, And that kind of network. It's like from Jake being a tattooer, conventions. A lot of tattooers don't work them because they need the work. They work them as a social and networking event.
Yeah.
And when you show up for something, it means that it shows that I'm here and I'm wanting to show up for my industry. So, hey, it can be awkward and all that kind of stuff. But if you don't want to be in front of a camera, and I get it, maybe look into those industry things going on through, a Carter and ACDN and ones that aren't run by networks, whatever. And just kind of like show up
somewhere. If it's not on social media, you still got to show up somewhere. Yeah.
I get it. Like I don't particularly. I really have to show up, and I struggle sometimes, and that's why like I will batch content or do it like when I wake up and I feel really good, I'll make the most of it. So then to make up for when I don't feel good and don't want to do it, I have it already there. Yeah. So I get that it's a struggle, and it's just, you have to though.
Sorry. I'd love to keep chatting, but I think we're coming up to our time. So before I let you go, let's say for the people that are watching who are either, running their own cake business or wanting to start, given the experience that you've had, what would be the top 3 things that you would want to say to them?
Get some sort of education. And I understand some people can't go out and get a qualification, but I think education in especially food is important. So however that applies. I think the second one is to try everything and see what you like doing. People always pressure themselves as, I don't have a style, and it's okay. A lot of people can be good at everything. So try everything and see what works for you. And I just think to just trust yourself. If something doesn't work for you, then follow that kind of gut instinct. But I say yes to everything once. And if I don't like it, I don't do it again.
Yeah.
So say yes without burning yourself out. Say yes to opportunities and things that come your way. Try to have some sort of education backing, whether it's a workshop with someone, a formal qualification or anything like that. And try everything, because you never know, you might actually love something that you turned your nose up at prior.
Yeah, I love that. I think especially love to say yes to everything, because a lot of people say yes out of pressure.
Yeah.
And then, or, then they say yes and then they didn't like it, and then they'll start beating themselves up because why did I take that order or whatnot. But I think from your angle is saying yes so that you have data, right? It's data collection. So if I don't do this, how will I know? So I'm just saying yes just to see did I like it, yes or no, then that's mission accomplished, right? And I love that angle. I don't think that even just that change in perspective, you're still doing the same thing, but it's a different way of looking at it.
Yeah, like if I say yes to something and I realize that it was worth my time, but I need to be paid more next time, then when it comes around to asking again, I say, yeah, I can do it, but this needs to change. I'm not asking for this. And then, I just think, why not?
Yeah.
I mean,
I love that.
Nothing to lose.
Thanks, Alex. I love this chat. And I think you're doing really well. And to be honest, like I have these chats and I have a certain question or a certain perspective from, seeing the person's business at the start of the chat, and then I end up at the end of the chat and it's very different to, what you think. And to think that that's just a regular thing that everybody comes across. Like you look at everyone's page on social media and you have a very different perspective from like what is actually going on behind the scenes. I think you're very inspiring. I'd love that you listen to yourself, and you make it work for you. You're not chasing a dream that someone else hands to you. You're doing what makes you happy. And I think that to me is very inspiring.
I mean, hey, the awards are nice, but they don't tuck me in at night and make sure I have a good sleep. So, awards, but I just need to be happy, and I can do that with or without awards, or with or without validation of others. It just matters what I'm happy with at the end of the day. So, yeah.
I love that message. Thank you so much. for
so much.
spending the time with me.
Chat with you for
But yeah,
including me.
reach out anytime.